Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this quick video in regards to the Testament of Solomon. So if you're not familiar with the Testament of Solomon, it basically, Christians will say it's the Apocrypha, or that these are texts that have been written or recounts of how Solomon was able to build the temple by defeating the demons and employing their skills by the means of a ring and giving its seal to Archangel Michael. So there are basically 130 sections, and the overall purpose of the writing for this was that he was warning. Solomon states that he wrote this testament before his death so that the children of Israel would know the powers and shapes of the demons and the names who have power over them. So regardless of if you identify to Christianity as a religion, or if you understand energetics or energy or the metaphysics, or maybe you have a little bit of both, the Testament of Solomon, regardless of whether you think it's right or wrong or true or false, allow people to heal themselves and understand that a lot of the negativity, the pain, and the suffering that we experience on this earth does not come from godly energy. I don't like quote unquote like buzzwords at all. Like everybody today in the world of business uses innovative and progressive. They all use those, but they're buzzwords. And so I think even in like religion, you have certain buzzwords like the enemy and the Lord, and I'm trying to think of stuff off the top of my head now. I kind of blanked out, but I'm not a big fan of buzzwords. But life is a battle of polarities. It is a battle between the light and the dark. So you do have God's loving energy, and you also have dark or demonic energy. If you do understand things like astral projection, or entities or spirits that can come during your sleep, it sounds so mind-blowing to the logical and rational mind that something that you can't see can exist. There are millions of people throughout the existence of humans who have had experiences with unforeseen forces, positive or negative. So why is this also important? It's important because some of the texts that I will read to you state that a lot of these negative things that we experience do not root to God's love and energy. So what does this do? It allows you to bring awareness to yourself, and also to pull away from the things that are very, I don't want to use the word demonic, it's just very negative. Like, look at the mainstream media today. We are living in the age of deception. Whether you're right or left, everybody is writing stuff based on their biases, so you don't really understand what is truth and reality, or what is fake and deceptive. And the internet has really opened up a can of worms for us to not really understand the difference between reality and kind of this virtual reality. Like living on Facebook and living this glam life on YouTube is a virtual reality. It's not the existence that you experience every day in normal life. The Testament of Solomon is long. It's also complex. I will post a PDF link below where you can read it. But my point is, I want you guys to understand that when you start to notice these things like anxiety or suffering or pain, this roots to a lot of spiritual issues in life. And that's where it's really important to focus on the positivity or God's love and energy. And if you do understand or if you do believe in protection from the angels, a lot of these demons that Solomon communicates with are also thwarted, or they're casted away by the protection of certain angels like Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and things like that. So the 34th verse in the Testament of Solomon talks about, he communicates with another demon that has 7 different energies. And so as Solomon is questioning these females, he's saying, "Who are ye?" But they, with one accord, said with one voice, "We are 33 elements of the cosmic ruler of darkness." And the first said, "I am deception." The second said, "I am strife." The third said, "I am clothud," which means battle. The fourth said, "I am jealousy." The fifth said, "I am power." The sixth said, "I am error." The seventh said, "I am the worst of all, and our stars are in heaven. 7 stars humble in sheen, and all together, and we are called, as it were, goddesses. We change our place all in together, and together we live, sometimes in Lydia, sometimes in Olympus, and sometimes in the great mountains." So these energies, these demons that he communicates with, are here on earth. They're under the earth, and they're also above the earth in the astral realm. And so a lot of these demonic energies that he talks about do reside in a certain star. Now, when you're looking at a lot of these things, so like, for example, the deception, he says, "I deceive and weave snares here and there. I whet and excite heresies, but I also have an angel who frustrates me, Lamachalil." So all of these, all of these energies have a certain role to play. So when you start to look at politics and government, you really start to see from a spiritual, energetic perspective of how disgusting a lot of this stuff is, because a lot of things that have happened here on earth have been caused by man-made energy. And man and humans are so weak in some sense that they will fall to adultery. They will fall to get power or to get money. The Bible talks about money as the root of all evil. You obviously have 2 different forms of energy when you gain money and power. You can use that for the good, to help and heal the world and uplift certain, poor communities, or you can use that for your own evil gain on, ripping and tearing apart communities, causing war in some parts of the world to cause more poverty. When you start to understand various spiritual texts, especially ancient texts, you know that God is about love. It's about abundance. Life has been like the Garden of Eden at one point in time, but they say after the fall of sin, that's where a lot of these dark energies have been casted. And, there's theories that Adam and Eve were, I guess, vegan at that time because they didn't milk cows, but they were vegan before, the fall of sin by eating that forbidden fruit, by not following God's word. So, you start to tie all this together with natural law, things that are natural, and you start to look at a lot of things that are artificial, things that are man-made. Well, what's man-made? It's war. It's, bullshit government policies like masks right now are a big one. A lot of people are flipping out about masks and potentially having a required vaccination. That could be definitely some forms of human control, whether you agree with it or not. What else is man-made? A lot of food and artificial processed foods. A lot of these things are not good for you. It goes against the natural grain of spiritual law or just natural law in general, if you believe in God, it's been created by God. So the 72nd verse also has a little bit of an interesting context, because there was a 36-face spirit that had a conversation with Solomon. And Solomon asked, "Who are you?" And with one voice, the spirit said, "We are 36 elements, the world rulers of this darkness. But, O King Solomon, thou wilt not wrong us, nor imprison us, nor lay command on us. But since the Lord has given thee authority over every spirit in the air and on the earth and under the earth, therefore we present ourselves before thee like other spirits, from ram to bull, which is Aries to Taurus, from both twin and crab, Gemini and Cancer, lion and virgin, Leo and Virgo, scales and scorpion, Libra and Scorpio, archer, Sagittarius, goat horned, Capricorn, water pourer and fish. That's Aquarius and Pisces. If you look at the beginning of the Testament of Solomon when he's talking to Ornias, or I can't say these words, Ornias, he asks, where do you live? And Ornias talks about he lives in the star of the water pourer. The water pourer is the water bearer. Water bearer is Aquarius. So a lot of the shit that we're seeing today, and when you read the whole Testament of Solomon, it talks about rebelling against God and against, law and order and things like that. You start to piece things together that a lot of this stuff is driven through dark spiritual practices. And as much as people pray to God and to Jesus and to Archangel Michael, there are people who do pray and worship demonic entities. And this stuff is very evil. It sounds very weird and wacko to the logical mind. Some people, their God is science. Other people, their follower is Buddha and Jesus. So not everything in spirituality is positive. If you have the light, you have the dark, all right? And so when you start to read further down toward verses 75 and on, he continues to have these conversations with various demonic entities. I'm trying to find one. Okay, so the sixth one said, so the sixth one is basically a demonic spirit, is saying, I am called Sephendanal. I cause tumors of the parotid gland and inflammations of the tonsils and tetanic recurvation. So that in its sense might not always be just very literal in terms of, glandular issues. But it is also very, very interesting that, some things can be known on a spiritual level, like tonsils. If you have swollen tonsils, that could be a physical manifestation. But a lot of times that physical swelling of the tonsils will not allow you to communicate, and you lose your voice and the power of your communication in your throat chakra. So that concept is going to come from more of the yoga philosophy. But when you start to look down, it said, one spirit says, I weaken the strength of the shoulders and cause them to tremble. I paralyze the nerves of the hands, and I break and bruise the bones of the neck. I suck out the marrow. The eighth entity said, I distort the hearts and minds of men. If I hear the words, Ariel, imprison Beeble, I retreat. The ninth one said, I send colics into the bowels. I induce pain. So these are very, very interesting. If you continue on, you'll see that some cause anxiety. One says, I cause nervous illness by my assaults. Another says, I cause cold and frost in the pain of the stomach. So another one is talking about, I inflict upon men's fevers and am harmful to the guts. So I cause convulsions in the bath. A lot of things. There was some also that talk about I cause coughing and hard breathing in children. There's just all these things that talk about controlling various parts of the mind and the body, which also leads to spiritual, a lack of spirituality in your life. Like, for example, the 26th one says, I steal away men's minds and change their hearts and makes man toothless. So it's not literally toothless, but to some degree, you can start to look at the energies of what this is saying and understand how these things manifest physically. Like, if you know that the mind and the gut are very much linked together, you know that the enteric nervous system connects the mind and the gut is like your second brain. So it causes confusion to things like intuition when you have these, entities either ruling certain parts of the body. Some talked about causing anxiety in men and migraines. It's like all of this pain and suffering does not root to the love of God. The love of God wants you to feel whole, happy, and complete. It wants you to feel upfilled. It wants you to be abundant. It wants you to experience the natural life on earth, to live a very loving and healthy life. If you've been alone and suffering from loneliness during coronavirus, it's because we are connected by the human heart, and we are social creatures that feed off of the warmth and love of other people. Some of the mild things that I discuss, it's really hard for me to communicate all of my thoughts about this text into one video because it is such a complex subject, and I'm pulling theories and understandings from various other parts of spiritual texts, from Christianity, from yoga, from Buddhism. But once you start to read all of this, you start to understand this a lot better, that this pain and suffering, or this race war that we're going through, is created by man. This does not root to love. The revolution, a lot of yoga people are saying it starts from within. It doesn't start with looting businesses on the street and destroying communities and people's businesses and homes. That does not come from a very loving place. That old shit needs to start leaving. And that's the one very positive thing that the energetic spiritual community has talked about, is leaving that old paradigm behind, leaving away that old crap of the fighting and the name calling and the snickering and the defense mechanism. It's like, well, you're just a loser. It's like that's reality TV. Now that you start to look at how reality TV has programmed us, none of that comes from God's love. That comes from man-made bullshit that's trying to manipulate you and make you into a psychopathic monster like the dipshits that you see on television. I just wanted to share some thoughts about this because I really think it's important to know, because some of the verses in here have also talked about changing the hearts of man to create adultery off of their wives. And when you start to look at today, how femininity has been bred today as compared to even as soon as the Victorian era or before, a lot of fine art and history has shown women in their beautiful forms of their natural figure, whether they were naked or clothed, that doesn't matter. You look at a lot of art from the Greek gods, some of those women were chubby. They weren't super thin. So everything you see today that's very sexualized, or, women on Instagram wearing thongs and butt floss and getting money from men off, just to show off their body like that. Like, that's not the positive side of femininity. That is part, because men are so goddamn weak, that is part to destroy us, because when men are addicted to what they see on screen, they cannot be they eventually most likely will not be attracted to people and women in normal life, the women who are of normal form. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So anyways, even if you think the Testament of Solomon is BS, you can still understand that a lot of what they talk about are negative manifestations in your mind, body, and spirit. That does not root from God. That does root from negative or dark entities or energies, okay? So thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. I hope that you've learned a little bit. And now that this thought popped in my head, when I talked about the zodiac sign, 36 faces, that means that these entities can pollute everyone on earth, because we are all born under a certain constellation and a certain star sign. So we are all susceptible and capable of getting caught in, the trap of darkness's buffet table of shit. All right? Have a great one. See you next time.